Hi. Did you take the second exam? Did you have the honor? Set 2. If you did, I'm going to walk you through that one too. I'll try and be quick. I know I can be loquacious and you want to go start your summer. But if you had set 2, here we go. This is what it looked like. So if you haven't seen this one, pause it on the screen. Cool. Hopefully you saw that one. All right, so here is my, so here we are right away. British guy, History of the World in 6 classes. We used to read that in my class, and then kids stopped reading, so then we had to stop. So he's talking about industrial tea costs and how they're not doing it anymore, and Britain importation of tea. It's a lot of tea. So identify an argument he makes this is why I told you, you're going to have to identify a claim or an argument makes regarding tea production in the late 19th and early 20th century. Okay, so let's pick one. Production cost of tea was roughly the same. Figures tell the story. Britain imported 31,000 tons of tea. Thousands of, while imports from India had risen. The rise in China's tea industry had a devastating effect on Chinese tea farmers. Okay, go with that. That's an argument. He's saying the lack of the downfall of China's, if you didn't know any of this, it's fine. It's in the documents, in the source. The downfall of China's tea was because Britain stopped buying tea from them and started buying tea from India. That's an argument. Cool, you got the point. B, describe one likely reason for the change. If you talk about that India, describe, right? I warned you. Describe is here. We are living in an era where describe has been asked. Describe one likely reason for the change in tea imports to Britain, as outlined by the author. If you just knew that India was a British colony, I mean, that'll get you the point. And you talk about, well, it's a lot easier to do that than it is to go to China. Then you're not wrong. A lot less fees and all kinds of stuff like that. And then C, explain one additional piece of evidence not included in the passage that would support the author's claim that China, anything about China, opium, Taiping, Boxer. I mean, he's sitting here in 1913. Sun Yat-sen, any of that nationalism, any of that stuff is good. Any of that stuff is good. This is a good one. I like this one. Might be using this in class next year. No one's going to watch this in the future. White folk. This one starts with the white folk. So number 2, ABC. Identify one reason United States officials were concerned about communism. Oh, okay. Well, what is this? An Afro-Caribbean intellectual. Got you. So someone of Afro-Caribbean descent who is living in London. And A is saying, identify one reason United States officials were concerned about communism as noted in the first paragraph. All right, so if the United States is really worried about communism taking root in Africa, okay, so it is. The Americans are, why? Cold War. Cold War is happening. Containment. Domino theory. Whatever. The stopping and the spread of the communism. Any of that stuff. I would have literally said containment. Why do they want to stop it? The cold, I bet, again, they haven't released the rubrics, so I don't know. But I bet they're going to accept Cold War. They don't use I'm just checking. They don't use the phrase Cold War in here, so I bet that works. B, describe the historical situation that resulted in the system of colonialism. That's imperialism. You know what that is. That's Unit 6. If you could describe Unit 6. Materials and markets, social Darwinism, civilizing mission, searching for more raw materials to feed the industrial machines, blah, 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 blah. That's B. C, explain one way the source reflects the political situation in Africa. All right, so now you need to talk about, man, this one's all over. This is a go-to. These are all very doable. The FRQs are awesome. Let me get a thumbs up in there. Explain one way the source reflects the political situation in Africa. So that's decolonization. That's what he's reflecting. He's literally in 1956. And then he calls out the Marshall Plan from Leesburg, Virginia. I made a video on that because the guy lives down the street. But how it should be a Marshall Plan. Oh, look at them even telling you what Marshall Plan is. You know what Marshall Plan. So, yeah, that's 2. Both of those are good. Both of those are very doable. Hopefully you didn't get tripped up. Even if you don't know the story of tea, you hopefully know the tea here from the reading. And so that's the first test. If you didn't take the first test, if you're just joining me in the second half of this, then the SAQs were earlier, and it seems like these SAQs were later in the time period. I don't know if that's a choice or what. Well, no, but again, I think there's a lot of stuff that you can answer on 1, and I think there's also a lot of stuff you can answer in 2 if you know about both decolonization and imperialism. That's gonna help you out. Part C, all right, then you have a choice. Okay. Here's the choice. I'll blow it up for you. So what do you want to do here? Identify, gunpowder. That's Unit 3. I told you Unit 3 existed when I picked it for the DBQ. Explain one. So then you've got Identify gunpowder because that's a gunpowder one. And you get to the bottom one, it's a Unit 9 one. So how do you want to do? What do you want to do? I think I would have still gone coin toss. Either one. Either one. I don't hate either of these. I think they're both good. I'll run you through them real quick. Identify one development that contributed to the spread of gunpowder technologies. Oh, that's not a gunpowder empire. I think that's a trade route thing. So Mongols, how's that? Or the expansion of trade routes. All that's good. Explain one way the use of military technologies affected. Sorry, I'll highlight. People complain. Explain one way the military technologies affected the development of land-based empires in the period. It helped them conquer, expand, spread out. That's kind of a simple way, especially if you can talk about the Ottoman expansion into Europe or Ottoman expansion everywhere. Same with the Mughals taking over the Delhi Sultanate. If you talked about, right in the time period, if you talked about the fall of Constantinople, that works too. So any of that. And explain one way naval technologies contributed to economic change in this period. I mean, 1450 to 1750. Notice they're not talking about the land-based empires or gunpowder or whatever you want to call it. Here, they're just talking about in any way. So how did astrolabes, compasses, and star charts and knowledge of the oceans and the stars, how did that lead to economic change? Anything. Atlantic system, anything in the New World, anything into India from the Europeans, or anything of the Europeans arriving anywhere is that one. So that's that one. And then for this one technological development in communication or transportation in the 20th century. Name one? Name one. I don't know. Internet. How's that? Flight. All right. Let me make a claim. That's the easiest question on the whole test. So if you saw that and you were like, yes, then like, I mean, come on. Can you name any transportation or technology or communication technology? Cell phones. Development. So you could, I mean, the College Board in Unit 9 literally says radio and television. They also say the radio and telephone, both older, but both developing into. So if you went with those, I bet they're going to take them. I don't know. Like only nuclear technologies affected international relations. I don't know. The entire Cold War. I love this one. All of a sudden, I'm with this one. I like 3. I think 3 is a better question. I think this one. I think if you did 4 is the easy one. So if you ask me, nuclear technology affected international containment, deterrence, duck and cover, mutual assured destruction. If you want to get wild, you could go Chernobyl. So any of that stuff. Explain one way spread new technologies contributed to increased economic activity in the 20th century. I feel like this was an old question. This was like an LEQ a few years ago. But anything that says here, where are my shipping container people at? All right. You know you love shipping containers. So does the College Board. So that's what I would have gone with there. Whenever I can talk shipping containers, I'm going to put them in there, and I like that there. So let's go with that. Then you have the DBQ. I think this, if you didn't watch the first part of the video, you can go back and look at that one. These are all available online. You can see the released stuff here. I think that this one is doable. I don't think this is a bad one. I just think the other one was a little more doable. You know what I'm saying? So if you had this one, again, just in lieu of time, here is the quick version. It is asking you, evaluate the extent to which the spread of industrialization provided women with new opportunities and or challenges. So I think that's a tougher prompt in general than the other one, which was, about technology affecting Africa imperialism stuff, which was the other one. But I think the documents are also helpful. Like the college. Neither of these are my favorite one ever. 2022, I love that one. But these are both very, very, very good. Like teachers are going to be using these in classes for sure. So, and I like this one because it's not a fastball. Like in class, when I'm like, all right, industrialization, I don't immediately talk about women and gender and that kind of thing. But it is a big offshoot. It is something that comes up quite often. But it's not the focus. So I like when a DBQ does that. It talks about a big idea like industrialization, like this one does, and then talks about maybe not like the economic empire building and growth of economy stuff, but it's like, what about this major social change that went with it? And you kind of focus on, and that's what all the documents are about. So kind of like that. Anyway, you got a Russian factory worker. She's talking about how women are and a cigarette factory. Sorry, I just reread all of these. I read all these for the first time and then hit record, and here we are. So, talking about how the woman who was in charge of her factory, like the leader of her factory, the organization of women in a factory workers' society in Russia, in the Soviet Union, in 1926, was a woman, and how she was learning to read and write. If she could read and write, things would have been better. But she's already in charge of a factory, so that's kind of cool. I don't know. She's in charge of the women in a women's factory society. So she's not like running the factory. Then document 2, you get a photo. Cool. Ottoman women working with a man in charge. So that should give you some ideas to what's up. What I got from this one is, and I'm just remembering now, what I got from this one was that it says, well, how did industrialization help women? You're like, of course it helped women. It led to the right to vote. It got women out of the household. It gave women more control economically over their lifestyles, and granted them more opportunities and all. And then you get to the documents and they're like, no, it didn't. They're like, it's actually kind of crappy. Men are still in charge. Men are still doing these things, and men are still like ruling over them. It's just, same stuff, different day. Like, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It's almost like it's more of a shift economically, but the social norms aren't changing. That's what I was picking up, because I was like, oh, easy. This will be about women's rights and look at all the good things that we're gonna get, and then didn't do that. So this woman here, document 3, what should women know about communism? And so we have our second communist, the first lady, presumably, I'm not going to scroll back up, but was in the Soviet Union, so I'm assuming she was. Oh, so she's former communist, living in exile. She's in Japan, and she's like saying, like, it's a nightmare. There are these factories, it's not going well. It's basically slave labor. So, again, not great for the women as we're reading through. Also, if you had this one, way more reading. I feel like this DBQ is a ton of, no one's talking, but a ton of like reading to do. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's a lot more to use, I guess, if you want to be positive, but also like you're what, 15, 16? It's probably a lot of reading here for you. So, that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, this one, if you read back on the other one I don't feel was as long. Maybe it was. So here, the Vladimir district of the Russian Empire. I thought this was out of order. The first woman was talking in the Soviet Union about the 1890s. Read the documents, people. So these are in the proper order. So then you have how the document 4 is talking in Russia in 1912. So pre-Soviet, again, pre-Soviet, that men are not working in the factories, and so, like a majority of men are working in factories, so who's doing the household stuff, who's doing the household farm work, that kind of stuff falls on the women to do it, and women are even stepping up politically. So that's kind of what I was expecting more of, women stepping forward into this role when I started this one. Document 5, Japanese labor activist. She's talking about 1910s and 20s, although this was published much later, so that can help you in sourcing maybe. She's talking about how she was basically lured into this factory system that's a nightmare. She's equating it to slave labor. Like, they get paid, but then all that money goes to the food they're being served, and so, like, are they being paid like $1 or a yen? A sen, I think they say sen. A sen a day. I always said yen growing up. I'm pretty sure that's still the money. Document 6, white African labor activist, autobiographical statement prepared for the release. National organizing officer for a major union. Document 6, I do think this is the most women ever in a DBQ as like the sources. So that's nice. That's new. Here she is. She's saying like, I got a job, I got wages, it was awesome, and then the Great Depression happened, and then that was kind of it for her on that level. So she's laid off, but she still likes that life. She doesn't want to be like, she even calls out at the end here, like, I don't like the nostalgia of farm life and farm living. We're not going back to that. We are out. We are now, she even says, cannot become sentimental about the beauties of the countryside. I'm not afraid of the towns nor the march of progress. So she's on the other side. So this DBQ kind of split them that way. Again, look at the writing. It's a lot. It just feels like a lot. Each of these having 3 paragraphs, 2 paragraphs. I mean, you're on the clock here. I mean, normally I wouldn't care, but you're on the clock, so you have to be doing these quickly. So here you are in South Africa, in Johannesburg. She is a black South African, so you're getting a different view there. That's kind of a different take from what you've been seeing earlier. with European and Asian women, mostly speaking. And this gets into apartheid and kind of how that affects things, and how the men are going to the mines and women are this one kind of easily matches back to the first document, where they're both talking about like, well, women are in charge now, women are doing good things, women are kind of taking over politically and stuff. And then by document 7, you could kind of feel that the Europeans are and the mining in South Africa here is now forcing women to the front, the same way that the factory stuff was back in document 1. So anyway, outside information here, I would go with the suffrage movement. Like, that doesn't seem to be mentioned here. Again, I read this very quickly, so you go with that. And for context, you could go with Enlightenment thoughts, Enlightenment principles. And then again, for thesis, I would say it provided women with new work opportunities outside the home. Although social challenges, like, I mean, hell, just in the picture, you get men are still ruling over women economically and socially. So something like that for thesis. And then the rest is outside of it. I said suffrage. You just kind of group them together. Try your thesis again at the end. That's what I would go with this one. It's pretty solid. This is a good one. I like the other one better, but whatever. I think it's clearer cut for you. That one's good. Those documents are very groupable though. Like they're all on. There's several that, this is helping women's movement. This is women complaining about the inequalities that are still around, and so you also have like a good global view, so that's kind of cool. LEQ time. Real quick, develop an argument that evaluates the extent to which movements or transfers led to demographic, cultural, or social changes across the Atlantic. That's a Columbian Exchange question. I warned you about that. So develop an argument that evaluates the extent to which, so make a claim that says how much movements or transfers led to demographic, cultural, or social changes across the Atlantic. I mean, anything. I mean, that's all of Unit 4. So social changes, Costa's, the arrival of Africans to the New World, enslaved labor, plantation economies, cultural, cult of saints, voodoo, demographic, Native Americans dying, smallpox. If you saw the earlier one, I stop here and I write this one. I really don't care what the other ones say. Like, that's... So if you guys are like, oh, we have the hardest DBQ, your LEQs are way easier. Like, and those are good. Those are still good. These are easier. So I would have stopped right there and been like, let's go, Columbian Exchange, brain dump. Even if you didn't do this, if you're just watching this and you didn't do this one, you can think of 4 pieces of evidence that support that there was a demographic, cultural, or social change in the Atlantic region. That's this whole thing over. Oh, you can't see it. That's America's both Africa or Europe. I love it. That's where I go. And then the next one. So again, I wouldn't, if I was you, I wouldn't even have seen the other two, because I would have already done this one. But develop an argument that evaluates the extent to which. So make a claim that says how much Enlightenment ideas encouraged movements for political change and or social reform. That's suffrage coming back again. Or suffrage movement. I mean, suffrage not really being a thing at this point. Let's see or women's suffrage, obviously. Well, maybe not obviously, but that's what I was going for there. Political change, every revolution. You could talk about the end of the slave trade, abolition. You could talk about 1750, 1900 workers' rights, unions. Any of that stuff is good. I still like 2 more. I don't know. Columbian Exchange, I'm like, let's go. And then during the 20s, the last one, develop an argument. I'm not even reading the intros and LEQs are garbage. Develop an argument that evaluates the extent to which nationalism was the most contributing factor to global conflict during this period. Do you remember the main reasons for World War I? And was nationalism. You talk about the Serbs there. You could talk about, super ultra nationalism. You talk about fascism in World War II. So either of those, there's a lot of evidence you can use. Anyway, hopefully that was helpful. That was just me sitting down and randomly talking about the 2 things I just read. If that was helpful, great. Good luck next year. If I don't see you again, please stay subscribed. I always drop history stuff you might like. If not, whatever. Have a good life. That was the 2025 AP World History Set 1 and Set 2 as I would do them.